Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to McKnight Tonight. It is so good to have your company. I tell you what, it's Tipsy Thursday and I need a drink. I've just had the performance review of my life. Amanda just gave me some notes. Oh, I'm not allowed to mention it. Hey, today marks International Day of Non-Violence, held on the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. It's a reminder of the power of peaceful protest. Unless there's a bully and then punch their lights out. It's also recognised as the World Day for Farmed Animals. Now, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I misread words. If you've ever watched McKnight Tonight, you'll know that. And when I looked down at the script and saw this, I thought it said it's World Day for farted animals. I don't know why. I don't know how I saw that. And I went, well, it's good we're recognising that the animals have need. But no, it was nothing to do with that. World Day for Farmed Animals highlights the push for compassion in how we treat animals. Look, some big thank yous. Last night, we haven't got the champagne tonight, Amanda. No, wouldn't be allowed to do that 2 nights in a row. But a big thanks to Travis, who bought me a coffee that covered the cost of the champagne. Travis, that was such a nice gesture. We had Travis doing that. We had Matthew give out some paid subscriptions on the YouTube page. Really, really, really appreciate it. And while I'm thanking people, Jill Fraser is a name you probably don't know, but she is a big part of this show. We always talk about the three of us, Amanda, myself, and Jasmine, because we're here putting the show to air. But Jill helps me organise some of the interviews. Some of the great interviews we get is all down to Jill, and she has been helping over these 50 episodes, or 51 now, and I love her. She's so good, and she really, I always said, I met Jill at Studio 10, and I always said, if there's someone I really need, you get Jill to get you that interview. She's one of the best, one of the absolute best. So thank you, Jill. Thank you, Travis. And don't forget, if you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, and you've got to click the bell so you never miss a show. You'll find extras, interviews, and behind-the-scenes content at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. And it's also where you need to go tonight at 10 o'clock in just less than an hour when we do the live stream of all 51 episodes. It's going to be a big weekend. I think I'm sleeping on the couch tonight with a bottle of wine, Amanda. As usual. She said as usual. All right, there is a lot to discuss tonight. Coming up on this edition of McKnight Tonight, the Coalition doubles down on nuclear energy, rerunning a pitch that cost them dearly at the last election. Queensland's Child Safety Department launches a broken IT system, leaving vulnerable kids exposed. In Rob's rant, 2 outrageous examples of just how much we're losing the plot. Plus, I'll be joined by Julie Webb-Pullman. Her daughter Bianca was on the flotilla with Greta Thunberg when it was intercepted by the Israeli military. All that and plenty more on this edition of McKnight Tonight. Now, let's get into our hot topics. They say if you don't learn from history, you are destined to make the same mistakes. And that seems to be what the Coalition are doing when it comes to nuclear energy. Despite losing the last federal election by a landslide, with nuclear being a major campaign issue, it looks like the nuclear technology will be a central plank of the Coalition's energy policy heading into the next election. The SMH reports opposition energy spokesman Dan Tehan argues it is essential to modernise the electricity grid, blaming Labor disinformation for its previous failure. Tehan told ABC Radio today there is overwhelming agreement on the Coalition side that nuclear needs to be part of our energy mix. There's a couple of things here. Labor may have done a disinformation campaign, but that's called an election. And it's the Coalition's job to have such good policies that they can talk about it. Nuclear didn't hit. And I don't understand. There's a bubble, isn't there? No, we don't think we did anything wrong at the last election, even though Labor won by a landslide. We believe nuclear is the way to go. It got so bad, Peter Dutton would not go to the suburbs where he was advocating for nuclear to go. It became a toxic issue for him. Whatever your feelings are about net zero and all that kind of stuff, people didn't like the idea of nuclear reactors being built in their suburbs. It's just something we don't like. And Bridget McKenzie today was on the Today Show and she said, I think when the reviews are all handed in, our nuclear policy won't be in the top 5 reasons of why we had such a catastrophic loss at the last election. Bridget is a friend of the show. She's been on McKnight Tonight. I really enjoyed the interview. I thought we saw a whole different side of her. But I don't believe she believes that. I think the coalition are really tying themselves in a knot, trying to look for something. They're not cutting through. Now, look, they can't be Labor light. I agree with that. But they also can't go so far to the right that they alienate voters. That's what I think happened under Dutton. So they have to find this centre right that can hit normal Aussies with who are smart, who have a sense of balance, who have a sense of understanding what needs to be done with the economy, and not going to the extremes that Labor goes to. But you can't just ignore the reality of the situation. You can't say, well, we did nothing wrong. Now, they all seem to be acknowledging that, but they're not acknowledging what was wrong. They're all saying, well, it wasn't this reason, it wasn't that reason that we did so badly at the last election. Now, I know they're still going through that and picking that apart, but nuclear not being in the top 5? Come on. That's just not believable. It's just not believable. So maybe the coalition needs some good fiscal policies, not just be Labor's bad, trying to pick everything that they can, and I've run it here when coalition politicians have gone on and said, how dare Annika Wells be at the UN, literally talking to other countries about our social media ban, the policy, the legislation that's coming through, even though I disagree with it. There's just some things that are just not worthy of it and just sound like bitching and moaning. And that's what the coalition needs to stop being right now. They need someone who can stand up and say, this is what we stand for. If some things align with Labor, fine, but this is what we stand for. We're offering a good alternative to what they are because Labor isn't the way. We are offering this. What is it? That's what they have to work out. But I don't think nuclear power is it. Do you? Hey, too much? I got a bit carried away. Hey, did anyone see The Assembly with Beck in it? I got to watch it today with Amanda, and it was so fabulous. Beck is a long-time viewer of McKnight Tonight and what I've done in the past with the Ben Robin Robbo Show and the Ange Robin Robbo Show, and it was so good to see her there. But what I didn't realise is that she's in more than one episode. For some reason, I thought, Beck, you were only in episode 2. So now I've got to go and watch them all. But I've seen the one with Guy Sebastian. It was fabulous. Do yourself a favour. Go and watch The Assembly on ABC iView. All the episodes are there. Beck is fabulous. Like, just a joy to behold. So, Beck, congratulations. I really, really love seeing it. You are going to have to come on and talk about it. So we'll make that happen in the next week or so. All right, let's move on. Queensland's Child Safety Department has gambled with the welfare of vulnerable kids and lost. Despite knowing their brand new IT system was broken, senior bureaucrats pushed the button anyway just to save money. The old platform was scrapped, leaving no safety net, and frontline workers say they're now flying blind when children's lives are at stake. It's a mistake that has compromised data for more than 16,000 kids. The data system is so riddled with errors that reports of children at risk of being harmed were not making it through to the department. It's outrageous. Director General Belinda Drew admitted cost-cutting drove the decision, while Child Safety Minister Amanda Cam has been forced to call in Deloitte to audit the disaster. How does this happen? You know you've got a flawed system, but you also hit the go button to save money. And get this, Belinda Drew has now confirmed the department is stuck with this dodgy program because the old system was taken out of commission permanently. And she confirmed she made the decision to launch the IT system due to ongoing costs and delays with the program rollout. And this is what she said. Hindsight is, as you say, a valuable thing, but at the time, it was the best decision. No, it wasn't. It was not the best decision. It was the worst decision. How do you have the gall to sit there or stand there and say that this was the best decision at the time, when you can look back, Belinda Drew, and see that 16,000 kids have had their data compromised? I don't know how you can't just admit that mistake. Well, probably because you know you'll be out of a job. You're going to be out of a job anyway. You said yes to a system that you knew wasn't ready. And in a vulnerable, it's bad enough doing that anyway, but even worse when there are vulnerable people involved. You have no right to be making decisions like this. You know, when you're in charge of anything, you make hundreds of decisions a day. You hope that 80% of them are right. This is an important one, and it was the wrong decision. And I get budgets and all that kind of stuff, but there's an easy, when you're in front of, if you're in front of Senate estimates and you're talking to bureaucrats and politicians, you say, I had to make a choice. Save money or put kids' lives at risk. Now, if they push back, you turn to them and say, if you want to push the button and it all goes to shit, you can take responsibility. But in my opinion, this system is not ready and I am not putting lives on the line. That's what a true leader does. Belinda Drew, you have no place being in charge of this organisation, and I hope you get the sack soon. All right, get your drink ready. You'll need it after today's rant. And tonight, McKnight is tackling woke. Now, I've seen two ridiculous examples of just how much we are losing the plot in this country. Example one. If you watched Media McKnight on Tuesday, you'll know Channel 7 and Southern Cross Austereo are looking to merge. It led to Sandon Capital Managing Director Gabrielle Radsminski to tell the AFR the boards of companies like Southern Cross should be lined up and shot. They have failed shareholders. Well, the poor petals at SCA didn't take that too well, with the chair, no less, Heath McKay-Cruz, issuing a statement calling the comments inflammatory and insightful, saying they displayed extremely poor judgment in making the comments. There is no place in any corporate scenario for the use of extreme and violent metaphors, McKay-Cruz said. It's a saying. You don't like something, you say, oh, they should be lined up and shot. Are we really getting to this point where the person running Southern Cross Austereo, lest we forget, owns Triple M, the blokey radio station, can't handle a simple comment of they should be lined up and shot, and instead evokes this wokeism that says, oh, that's inflammatory. What do you say? There is no place in any corporate scenario for the use of such extreme metaphors. And he called it inflammatory, insightful. So he thinks that people are going to go, yes, let's line up the board of SCA and have them shot. Give me a bloody break. Like, seriously, if you can't handle that, when you become the chair of this 7 SCA company and you're moving to the world of TV, oh boy, are you in for some shock and horror. You are going to be eaten alive. I don't believe, but here's the thing, I don't believe he believes that. He's just fighting back and using terminology that supposedly isn't accepted. I do not believe for 1 second he was personally horrified by this. Oh, clutching the pearls, get me the vapors, get me the vapors. Oh, they said we should be lined up and shot. Oh no, Harold. Oh no, please help. I mean, for God's sake. Have your drink. I'll wait. I'll have one. And then There's example two. Now, this is courtesy of someone I really like, comedian Mark Humphries. Have a look at the promo he's made for a new ABC podcast and see if you can guess why it really annoyed me.
Who was Christopher Skase? Well, he was a media mogul, a footy club owner, a resort developer, and a loving stepdad to 4 kids. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, that's right. He was a fugitive the entire nation despised. But while Skase did have some initial successes as one of the corporate cowboys of the 1980s business world, when it came to his later ventures, not everything was as it seemed. His glamorous mirage resorts in Queensland were actually laden down with debt. If only there was some clue in the word mirage. But in fairness to the people at the time, it's not like ads for the Mirage told everyone that it was too good to be true.
Too good to be true, Mirage.
Oh dear, that's a shame. The new ABC podcast, Skase, Fall of a Tycoon, will take you back to a time when people could be fooled into believing anything by wealthy businessmen. Not like today, of course. We're much smarter now. Featuring recollections by 80s icons, including broadcaster Darren Hinch. That's life. Footy star Warwick Capper. Me and newsreader Jennifer Kite. I probably shouldn't dress up as her, should I? And hosted by me, Mark Humphries.
Why shouldn't he dress up as her? He's doing a comedy skit where he's done Darren Hinch, although bad impersonation. Everyone knows Darren Hinch with the fast forward days was, I'm Darren Hinch, that's live. That's a terrible Darren Hinch as well, by the way. I'll leave it to the professionals. He's done Warwick Capper. But he can't do a female because he'd be dressing in drag, and in today's society, we can't do that. Jesus Christ, I thought it was getting bad enough that, you know, you have to be gay to play a gay role and you have to be trans to play a trans character, which I don't agree with. I think acting's acting, right? So I don't understand why for a comedy skit, he couldn't dress as Jennifer Kite. That would have been funny. But is this where we are in 2025? That we can't even do a skit where we say, I'm Darren Hinch. Oh, g'day, I'm Warwick Capper. Hi, I'm Jennifer Kite. Have we got a wig? I'll do it, Amanda. No, we don't have a wig. We need a props department.
Yes.
All right, buy me a coffee. Coffee super. So that we can, not you, Travis, you've done your bit, but buy me a coffee so I can buy some wigs and props and things like that. We've had 50 episodes, and while we had a good montage, we had lots of different things going on. For the next 50, we probably need a few outfits and things like that, don't we, to make our points? Yeah, so buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/McKnight tonight. And in the meantime, Mark Humphries, God love you. This podcast sounds fascinating, but wear the bloody dress. Put on the wig. Don't be afraid to do what you would have done 5 years ago. I'm sorry, Amanda. Too much wine. I'm sorry. And I had chips today. Don't be afraid to do what you would have done. Roll the thing. Roll it. All right. We've got a big change of pace coming very shortly because I've got an interview I recorded this afternoon, but it's with the mum of her daughter Bianca was with Greta Thunberg in that flotilla that has been boarded by Israeli forces. But the interesting thing about this interview is what the mum is saying about DFAT and the response they gave her. It's quite, I'd say it shocked me, but I have issues with the way DFAT helps or doesn't help Australians who are in trouble overseas, but we'll get to that shortly. I'll also have some of your feedback very shortly. But first, of course, it's time for a random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Yes, it's our random live shot of the day, and today we're going to southern Israel, the coastlines off Gaza. It's, of course, in the aftermath of the interception of an aid flotilla. Now, earlier today, Israeli forces intercepted vessels bound for Gaza, raising tensions over humanitarian access and naval sovereignty. Now, I'll be talking more about this with tonight's guest, Julie Webb-Pullman. Her daughter Bianca was part of the flotilla with Greta Thunberg and was detained by Israeli forces. Weather-wise, it's a sunny day with a high of 30 after a low of 18 degrees. There's a lot of action happening there. That feed has been full of action tonight, as you can see, Israeli forces going in and out of the port. So that'll be interesting when we get to that interview. All right, let's take a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight tonight. Beck says, question, if you're always in the doghouse, where does your dog sleep? Dog died, Beck. No, which that's true. But I am just having a bit of a joke with you. I actually wanted to make you feel bad. Oh, quick note. By the way, I think some people took me seriously when I said I had everyone's phone number. I don't have that power. I only had Jeanette's phone number because we had been in contact about something. So that's the only reason I had her. So fear not. I do not have your phone numbers. All right, what else have we got? Restoration Archive. Who noticed all aboard those vessels dump their phones overboard as they were boarded? Innocent people don't throw their phones overboard. I don't think that's true, Restoration Archive. The footage I saw, I'm sure, showed the Israeli forces collecting the phones. Yeah, no, I was looking at some of that footage and they got everyone to show their phones. They weren't dumping them over. We may have to go to the footage on that one. Own Your Crazy says, coalition going nuclear on nuclear again? When will they ever learn? Nuclear power produces radiation, which is not clean and not cheap to dump. I think the biggest issue is a fear factor. Now, there may be pros to having nuclear, but whatever the reality is, electorally, it is a bad issue. People do not want nuclear reactors in their suburbs. Michael T says, the coalition lost the last election because they spent more time listening to themselves than the electorate. If they want to win the next time, they need to start listening to all Australians. I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. And you know what gets me, Michael? And it happens in Talkback Radio as well, where commentators and politicians pick what I call the low-hanging fruit. Oh, Labor's done this. We reckon our listeners and our voters will care about that. They don't talk from an authentic place. Everything I say on this show is authentic. If I don't have a view on something, I just don't cover it. I don't cover it for the sake of covering it. I'm not just going to sit here and attack everything Labor does, right? I look at the issues, and you've all seen me. I will have a go at something the Libs do. I will have a go at something Labor does, because I base it on the issues. And the problem with a lot of talkback, I think there's a lot of inauthenticity. Actually, I know there is in talkback. And I think it happens with politics too. And I think sometimes you'll see people on the right, they'll go hammer and tong at someone on the left. Then they'll go and have a beer with them. It's all performative. And I just want real people that I can believe in to have a real opinion and do the best for me and do the best for the country. All right, Restoration Archive says, it's the lies Labor talked about nuclear. Putting out pictures of three-eyed fish when they are buying nuclear submarines is just a joke. May be true, but the coalition didn't have a way to go up against that. It was ineffective. Beck says, when I was talking about her episodes of The Assembly on ABC TV, Rob, stop making me cry. Oh, well, Beck, it was fabulous, and we're really excited. And Jasmine is going to watch an episode with me as well so that we can see a little bit more of you. Jeanette says, yay, rant. Always got a rant for you, Jeanette. Don't you worry about that. Radio Note says, metaphors are now violent, like shooting fish in a barrel. Sorry, fish. Yes, you have to apologise to the fish. You can't say shooting fish in a barrel. You'll upset them. It'll incite people to shoot fish in a barrel. I mean, this is where we are. Own Your Crazy says, I thought woke was about being aware of being vigilant against racism, etc. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. That is what woke was, right? but it went too far. And the word has changed. The word meaning has changed. When people say woke means that you care about people, yeah, it used to, but the word has changed and the meanings of words do change. And what happened is those on the far left went too far with their demands. And I keep talking about the pendulum, don't I? And they went too far, and now there's a pushback against that. And that's exactly what happened with being woke. Now being woke is seen as a negative thing, where what you're talking about, it is a positive thing. But that's not the positive thing anymore. It's seen as when you're going to extremes and everyone has to kowtow to a small minority instead of believing in inclusion, but even changing the way you speak. You can't say boys and girls. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's what's happened. Lynn McKnight, mum's on the line. The world has gone nuts. I think I might disappear to the wilderness. No phone, no internet, no papers. All right, just mum, are you okay? You already live down south and, no, mum, don't do that. Only your crazy says, I knew that, Rob. Otherwise, you would have drunk dialed us all by now. That's on me not having the phone numbers. Or maybe I'm part of the media elite where I do have the numbers, but I'm now trying to cover my tracks. Let's just dial Jason Turner. Shall we do that? I was actually going to have a look. I don't think I have Jason. Oh my God, I do have Jason Turner's number. I don't. I'm just joking. All right. Thank you for your feedback. Keep it coming. And don't forget, stay up tonight. Don't drink too much because we've got our pilot episode airing in full. And then all the episodes we've ever done of McKnight Tonight, that is happening at 10 p.m. All that and plenty more coming up in this edition of McKnight Tonight, plus an interview I recorded a little earlier today. There's a lot to unpack on this one, and then we'll get to more of your feedback on your Thursday night tipsy edition of McKnight Tonight.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Well, the Israeli Navy has intercepted the global Samud flotilla, a convoy attempting to break the blockade of Gaza. Organisers allege the flotilla faced aggregation at sea, including a suspected drone strike on the family boat while it was anchored near Tunisia, though Tunisian authorities dispute that claim. Among those on board was Australian doctor Bianca Webb-Pullman, one of 6 Aussies detained after the flotilla was stopped 70 to 80 nautical miles off Gaza.
My name's Bianca Webb-Pullman. I'm an Australian citizen, and if you're watching this video, it means that I've been kidnapped by the IOF and taken to Israel against my will. Tell my government to end its complicity with Israel and to bring me home. Stop the genocide, free Palestine.
Her mother, Julie Webb-Pullen, is here to share some insight. It's at 3 o'clock today as we're speaking. Julie, a lot is happening. Welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Thank you.
Look, thank you for fitting this interview in. I know you're deeply concerned. What is your understanding of the situation of what happened? And as we record this, as I said, at 3 o'clock, we've got some vision that has literally just come in as your daughter's boat is being intercepted. I'm going to roll those pictures as they happen. Tell us what we're seeing here.
Well, we're seeing the Israeli Navy entering into the cabin of the boat on which they are. All of the crew have gathered in the cabin, and they're all raising their hands to show that they're not armed, and they are not opposing the intercept.
Yes, and so they're doing the right thing. What do you know? What is your understanding of what's happened with your daughter?
Well, at the moment we don't, because they all threw their phones overboard. I don't know. I'm unable to talk to her or have contact with her directly at the moment as to what is happening right now. All we can see is what we are being shown in these live streams from the media that is on board. Apparently they have now jammed the communications. So since we saw that footage, I think we are now not going to be able to see very much more.
And this is earlier when Greta Thunberg's boat was boarded. She was in the last boat from memory. You're obviously concerned for your daughter, but you also have concerns about DFAT's response, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
Yes, yes, well, I mean, the whole system just doesn't seem to be that well set up. There's a number that you call for urgent consular assistance, and it's when the phone answers, it says if you're calling about the global Sumud flotilla, press option 1. And when you press option 1, it just takes you to a generic message that just says go to the website and hangs up. It does not connect you with any kind of emergency assistance. And then after about a week, I finally have now, yesterday, had a return call from somebody that gave me other instructions to press another number. But when I did press that number, it went nowhere. And well, the person who answered it didn't know what I was talking about.
Great.
So yeah, and said, "Oh no, there's no case," and all this sort of thing. But
Well,
finally,
this is the
yesterday,
thing,
I
Julie,
did
because
get contact with an officer who has now given a contact that you can get through to during office hours only. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've seen an email that you sent to Penny Wong and others today about
Yes.
DFAT, because in it you said they are denying that the capture of this flotilla in international waters is illegal. So DFAT are denying it's illegal, and
Yes.
you point out that goes against their own policy. Did
Yes.
DFAT genuinely tell you the capture of Greta Thunberg and now your daughter is legal, even though they're in international waters?
Yes, well, the humanitarian missions, humanitarian workers, and according to the Declaration for the Protection of Humanitarian Personnel, which Penny Wong released on the 22nd of September, which is only, just over a week ago, 10 days ago, they should not be intercepted. They should not be prevented from carrying out their humanitarian duties. So it's a bit hard to see how they can have a government policy demanding the free movement of humanitarian workers, whilst at the same time saying that they don't have the right to deliver the aid.
Now, you're a journalist as well as a worried mum, and I'd like to ask you about DFAT, because I have some concerns about what they do for Australians who are in situations. I was at an event recently where Peter Gresti was talking about what happened to him when he was first detained in Egypt, and he said DFAT was no help at first. Eventually, they became helpful, but at first they sort of wrote him off. Do you think there is a fundamental problem with the way DFAT handles situations in the early stages?
Yes, I do. I think there is very much. You can ring their line, their emergency line, and see for yourself. I recorded the message because I couldn't believe that it's still there. I thought, well, maybe it was because it was night when I called. So then I called again today, but no, it's still the same message. Still, Global Sumud Flotilla, ring this number, and you take this option, you take that option. They do not, it just hangs up. You don't even get to speak to anyone. So yeah, it's bad.
In 2024, the government released a report into the wrongful detention of Australian citizens overseas, and there were several recommendations, but let me read out these two, which I think are pertinent here. The committee recommends that the Australian government should adopt a clear, publicly available definition of wrongful detention and implement a framework which ensures cases of Australians being wrongfully detained overseas are identified, characterised and reported as being cases of wrongful detention. And this one, the committee recommends that the Australian government should legislate to ensure that agencies have powers, tools and accountabilities to respond to and deter wrongful detention of Australians, including providing greater transparency and reporting on cases of wrongful detention. Do you think the government is more worried about upsetting other nations than protecting our own citizens?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because they, their obligations in this case are quite clear with their own declaration for the protection of humanitarian personnel, that they have not done that. And the most that they're going to do is lobby the Israeli authorities. The Israeli authorities have already said that they intend to lock all of these flotilla participants up as terrorists in a prison in South Israel. Now, whether these are just empty threats or whether they intend to do this, it is incumbent upon DFAT to ensure that this does not happen, because they've been kidnapped. It's quite clear from the opinions, all the legal opinions, and even Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur, that these people are on a legitimate humanitarian mission. They should have free passage to deliver their aid to the besieged territory of Gaza, which is facing famine and genocide. And the Australian government is not enabling this. And this, when I spoke to the person, they said that they're not being kidnapped. They said they're just, that's a strong expression. They're not being kidnapped. Well, actually, when you take somebody off by force from one place to another, that is kidnapping. And
yeah, especially in international waters, it could be considered piracy. But let me ask you this. You're obviously aware there will be critics out there who say your daughter has gone into a dangerous zone. She's essentially rolling the dice with her own safety.
Well, I would point out to them that in 1940s, Australia conscripted many men and to go to a dangerous zone to prevent a genocide in Germany. And I don't hear them saying it was too dangerous for them to go. In fact, they were conscripting them and forcing them to go. These people have gone because the government is doing nothing, and they have had to take it. Civil society has had to take it upon themselves to do the humanitarian job that governments, not only the Australian government, many other governments also, but the job they should be doing. With the signatories to the Geneva Convention, signatories to the Genocide Convention, they have an obligation to prevent genocide and to ensure that there is a humanitarian corridor. They have done neither. Gaza has been cut off completely from any form of medical assistance. The hospitals have all closed. The famine, they've got tens of thousands of children facing imminent starvation because of the lack of infant formula. There is no infant formula getting in there. These people are trying to take that formula there to break this illegal blockade and to provide humanitarian aid. The UN, everybody, all of these international human rights organisations are unanimous that humanitarian aid must be allowed in unimpeded access, and that is not happening, and that is why Bianca and her co-flotilla participants are having to do it themselves.
And we know the Israeli government or the IDF have said that they will pass on any aid, but there's obviously reports that a lot of that hasn't gotten through for whatever reasons. You are obviously concerned that your daughter will be held on terrorism charges. So what are your next steps?
Well, because I don't even have the ability to contact her, we're completely reliant on DFAT, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, to act on her, in her best interests, to ensure that she does get consular support to get these charges. And as you pointed out, that the government should have had processes in place by now, but they don't. And the best we've got is that they will try to make contact with them and let me know. Well, people disappear into Israeli jails. Some never come back. Some never get out. The ones who do get out have lost enormous amounts of weight, have terrible physical problems, have had no medical attention, have had their medications like asthma medications withheld. And they even did this to the last flotilla participants that they
Well,
access to their medications. So of course I'm very, very worried.
Yeah. Well, look, it's a very complicated situation over there, but as a mother, I wish you all the best and hope that you get some word about Bianca. And I really do appreciate you joining us here to give us an update. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I genuinely have a lot of problems with what DFAT does. That interview, as I mentioned, was recorded at 3:00 this afternoon. Now, during that, there was some feedback coming through about that I have said the wrong thing, that about who threw the phones overboard. And I will always acknowledge if I'm wrong, and I could possibly be. But what I've done, so there was a live stream of what was happening. So I've pulled that up and I've gone back to the moment, and I haven't viewed it, so I don't know if I'm right or wrong. But I'll get Amanda to bring it up. And so the top right-hand corner this is the moment the Israeli military has come in, and you can see there's a girl with a phone. So if you look sort of in the middle on the other side of the table on the Florida in the top right-hand corner, she has her phone. So now I want to see what happens. So they're not in a position to run outside and throw it overboard. Now, the reason I was thinking maybe that it was the IDF who threw the phones overboard was because I saw them come on board, and I just don't know that there's a point where they can throw those phones. So now we're looking, and the IDF are about to come in. I know that from when I saw the footage before when we were doing that interview. So we're going to bear with this for a moment to see what happens. I may skip ahead 10 seconds if we don't get to there. But you can definitely see that that girl in the middle, the one who just bobbed up, has a phone. I think we can all agree with that. All right, I think I'm at the point where I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to hit the skip ahead 10 seconds. So that's not me. That's the IDF coming in, and they're reloading the footage. So this is how it was streamed out. This is not me. Hopefully they bring it back up in a second. So yes, what you're seeing there, that's the IDF on the Florida, which is where Bianca was. So they're now on the boat. Hopefully we go back to an internal shot. I'm really hoping we do. I'm pretty sure we do. So they've now put up this Florida intercepted. Florida is the boat. So hopefully, and I'm going to skip ahead again. Bit worried because last time I skipped it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so there is the inside. So they have not had an opportunity, as far as I'm aware, to throw those phones out. Once it reframes, we'll see if that girl has still got her phone. She doesn't have anything in her hand. Now, the window's not open, so she couldn't have just thrown it out. They're all showing their hands. And now the guy's found the camera. So I'm really sorry. We're not going to know. But she doesn't have her phone now. Oh, hang on. Is that it in her top pocket there? Like, if you look, and I've got my face right to the screen at the moment. It looks like her phone could have been put in her top pocket. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to this one, but to me, it looks like it's still in her top pocket. But if I'm wrong, I'll accept that. I mean, we make a big deal about McKnight always being right. That's because I usually am. So I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But let's get some feedback. You're Crazy says, you scared the literal poop out of me when he thought I was about to call him. You just never know with me, do you? Thank you, Jason. Beck says, I love how supportive your family is. Is that to us? Or is that to the lady? Oh, yeah, they're supportive. Yeah, they are. They're here every night doing this show for me. Matthew says, Does this mean I can go to North Korea and complain if the Oz government doesn't come to get me? Well, in a way, Matthew, it's not as simple as that. I do think that our government... I'll give you an example. The Barley Nine and Chappelle Corby. And there have been people over there where there are people who get into trouble overseas, whether they're right or not wrong, and I feel like the government throws them under the bus. So if we believe the rumours that are out there, and this is rumours, probably not true, who knows, right? But let me go down this rabbit warren. So Chappelle Corby, if it was baggage handlers at the airport, right? I can't remember if it was Sydney, and they have put the drugs in her boogie board bag. There was CCTV of it, which went missing. But the Australian government knew there were drugs in that bag. They allowed it to go over to Bali and allowed her to get caught, whether she was responsible or not. Let's just say that she wasn't, but the drugs were in there. So instead of stopping her and the drugs at the airport in Australia, they allowed her to go over where the penalties for drugs are much harsher. Now, if that's what we're doing as a nation, I think that's wrong, when we can head those things off at the pass. So, yes, obviously we don't have a relationship with North Korea, so we can't just go over there and get you out, but we should offer assistance wherever possible. And I come back to Peter Gresti, who was incarcerated unfairly. He said that when I was at a speech, and he said that he was not getting the help he needed at the time until they became aware that he really was being incarcerated for the wrong reasons. Jeanette says, what? Rob McKnight is wrong? Oh, Jeanette. Push. It's a drink for if we were doing drinks for every time I was wrong, you would all be very thirsty. That's all I'd say. And you're crazy. They weren't looking to photograph the fish. All right. Over the page we go. Michael says, my opinion is that DFAT are firstly focused on diplomacy and politics. Helping Australian people in difficult situations is low priority for DFAT. It's been shown time and time again. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. Could not agree with that more. You took the shot at me? My cord was wrapped up in the wheels. I thought I could get away with that while the graphic was up. Gavin Wright says, they did have backlash. No one wanted to be conscripted, hence the program. Yeah, that's true. Over the page we go. Radio Note says, throwing phones also what some groups told to do to protect contacts and possibly things to hide. That's a fair point. There would be a lot of communications and a lot of things that are in those phones that maybe they don't want the IDF to see. So, yeah, fair enough. Matthew says, bloody hell, thanks, Rob. Wow. All right. That brings us to the end of episode 51 of McKnight Tonight. Stick around, though, because in 12 minutes or 11 and a half minutes' time, we are going to be streaming every episode of McKnight Tonight, starting with the pilot, which is not online. You cannot see it anywhere for love nor money. So we better wrap this sucker up so we can get our new settings up and get the stream happening, Amanda. What, Amanda? What are you doing? Hurry. We've got to get this show finished. Stop doing. What are you doing? You got to... Jasmine, I'm mucking around. Jasmine looked at me like, it's not Mama Cheers. Finish up. My humour is lost on my kids. Seriously. All right. Thank you for a great week. It was a great 50 episodes. It was a great 50th celebration. I love you guys. Tell your friends. Try to get them to have a look over the weekend. Stop putting your head down, Amanda. I'm wrapping up. All right. It's good night from McKnight. We'll see you next week. Don't forget, we're not here Monday. We're having the day off Monday. We're back for Media McKnight on Tuesday and then back to normal programming on Wednesday, but it's daylight saving time. We will be 9 o'clock New South Wales, Victoria, 8 o'clock in Queensland. All right, it's good night from McKnight.
It's good night from McKnight.